Hi. Since you're watching this program, you've either already watched the first side of this video disc or you have a basic idea of what trucks are all about. Either way, this program is designed to help you match specific trucks with your prospect's needs. On the other side of this disc, I introduced you to the truck knowledge pyramid as a new, simpler way to think about trucks. And we covered all the levels except for the top, the sale. During this program, we're going to cover some aspects of the sale process. We're also going to pause for questions again, as we did in the first program. Some of these will be more complicated than those on the other side, because we're going to ask you to solve truck specking problems and make some recommendations, as if you were in the sales situation. But of course, we'll give you all the information you'll need to solve these problems. It's better to take a stab at them now than to wait for a prospect to ask you these same questions. To answer these questions, you'll need a pencil, your Truck Basics workbook, and a Chevy Truck Facts book. Now, when it comes time to work with your prospects and ask for the sale, you'll need to have some facts at your fingertips to make sure you're providing the right truck for the job. That's going to involve properly matching up some components. Nobody expects you to keep all the facts in your head, just like nobody expects other professionals, such as doctors and lawyers, to keep everything they need to know in their heads. People do expect, however, that as a professional, you know where to look to find the answers. Doctors and lawyers spend a large part of their training time learning about various reference works. Basically, you have just one reference book to learn about. While qualifying is the base of this truck knowledge pyramid, there is one book that truck professionals use for reference. That book is the core, the heart of truck knowledge. First, notice that the book is divided by a series of differently colored tabs. Each color also refers to a certain type of information. For instance, the yellow tabs are your product sections. These contain the specifications and selling information on all Chevy's light-duty trucks. We'll cover one of these sections in more detail in a moment. The white and gray tabs in the back of your book are the general features and specification sections, where you find more details on engines, transmissions, color and trim, comparisons, and so forth. Module 2 of this video disc side covers these tabs in greater detail. Before we get into the actual truck tabs, let's take a brief stop in the general information section. This first section in the book contains information that you'll need on series model identification. First, you'll see a typical Chevy model ID number. You'll notice that each letter and number means something to the Chevrolet ordering system. A wrong entry, and you might end up with a 6-cylinder C10 instead of a diesel-powered crew cab. So let's take a look. The first letter, in this case C, refers to the General Motors selling division. The second letter, in this case also a C, refers to the chassis type. The first digit used refers to the GVWR range. The next two digits taken together refer to the cab axle dimension or model type. By the way, cab axle dimension, or CA, means what it sounds like. It's the distance from the back of the cab to the center of the rear axle, a dimension used when choosing an aftermarket or vocational body for a truck. After that, the next two-digit combination refers to cab or body style. Second to the last is the body ordering code. That accounts for the next letter and next two digits. The final two letters and digit make up the engine ordering code. So, if we put this information all together, we have a Chevrolet two-wheel drive vehicle within a GVWR range of 3,400 to 7,300 pounds. It turns out to be a pickup with a CA dimension of 42 inches with a conventional cab. And now we narrow it down to a fleet-side pickup with a 4.3-liter Vortec V6 engine. With this information, there's no chance that there can be any mix-up with the order. More pages of interest in this section are these two on payload information. Pay special attention to them because they tell you how much payload different Chevy truck models can handle. Using these, you can pin down how much truck your prospects need. Well, since full-size pickups are Chevrolet's best-selling vehicle, and since going through this section will prepare you for all the rest, we'll concentrate on this section for the rest of the program. Our brief look at the Model ID page in the General Information section should help to make some sense out of the numbers here. You'll notice that the first column shows the series numbers, 10, 20, and 30. And the first four lines pertain to two-wheel drive, or C models, and the second four refer to four-wheel drive, or K models. Next, you'll see under the double columns labeled model number that several of the designations you saw on the Model ID page have been combined for you. This is so you don't have to start from scratch when you're ordering the 6.5-foot cargo box model or the 8-foot model. Following that is the body ordering code. It leads to two smaller categories, gasoline models and diesel models. Then these divide again to fleet side and step side within the engine types. As you can see, all of the categories we covered from the general information page are here for you. Chevrolet has saved you a lot of effort by setting up this simple chart. In this chart, there are a couple of codes you ought to know. First is C6P. That's the 20 series heavy-duty chassis, a truck just short of the 30 series. Second is B3J. That specifies a 6.2-liter diesel equipment in your body ordering code. Of course, the second chart, bonus and crew cab section, offers you the same information. At this point, we're going to stop for a few questions to see if you've understood the ordering codes. This page is labeled Standard Specifications. As the name implies, these pages describe the standard equipment on specific models and series. It contains information on engines, front and rear suspensions, brakes, electrical components, the frame, fuel tank capacities, steering gear type, transmission, tires, and wheels. This page provides the starting point for customizing the truck to your buyer's needs. It's from here you and your prospect decide whether the standard equipment is sufficient or if you need to add to the truck to carry heavier loads. To avoid misunderstandings, you should note that there are several standard specification pages devoted to each specific series. This page shows the information for a 10 series two-wheel drive truck with a gasoline engine. Now, be aware there are other pages devoted to the same series with diesel engines and four-wheel drive. Some of the standard equipment differs between these models, so it's important to make sure you're looking at the right page. Now that we've finished this page, it's time to answer some questions. Before we start exploring this page, you notice there are some abbreviations that you might not be familiar with. So you know what we're talking about. WB means wheelbase, the distance center to center from front axle to rear axle. IL stands for inside length, from front to rear of the body or pickup box, usually measured at the floor. OL is short for overall length, from front bumper to rearmost point of frame or body. OH, this means overall height from ground to roof. GT is for ground to tailgate. This measurement is the truck's loading height. While previous pages offer some basic information, this page gives you the additional information necessary to spec out trucks for specific needs. There's a wealth of information here. First, notice the body ordering codes in the upper right-hand corner. This is more for your reference, of course, but it ought to be helpful when writing up the order. These truck diagrams give external dimensions that some buyers need to know for their applications, like the distance from the front of the truck to the back of the cab and the depth of the box, for example. Notice this wheelbase availability chart has 3 rows. First, you see each of the different series we've discussed. Moving across the chart, we've got the wheelbase length available for each series and the body payload weight distribution chart that shows what percentage of the cargo weight is supported by the front and rear suspension. Notice the separate box that shows ground clearance for front and rear axles. Now keep in mind that this information refers to the two-wheel drive models only. Remember, there's a separate page for 4x4 models which will have different ground clearance figures. In this segment of the page, notice that many of the figures here are the dimensions in the diagrams on the top of the page. But besides that information, there's also the model numbers, the number of cylinders in the standard engine, and external dimensions as called out above. There's also the curb weight broken down into front, rear, and total, as well as model weight broken down in the same way. This information helps you to calculate the truck's payload. You'll see more on payload in Module 3 on this disk side. Also, notice that there is a separate page for the step-side models. Here you can show your prospects the difference in the dimensions between the fleet-side and step-side models, offering the choice between a model with a step up to the cargo bed and one without. Now we're going to pause and check out how you've done in understanding the material on this page. Here it's going to get a little trickier as we move into power teams, because only certain engines can be combined with certain transmissions and rear axle ratios. But it isn't really all that difficult. It just calls for a little attention to detail. Remember, Ordering the wrong combination could result in a rejected order that comes back to the dealership. Just imagine having to tell a sold customer that the agreed-upon vehicle was undeliverable. So, the first detail you want to notice is that one page is for all states except California, while the following page would be just for power teams allowed in California. Be careful here, because looking at the wrong page would be easy to do. Notice in this first column that all the engines available for the 10 series pickup are listed with their sizes in liters. Also, you'll see the engine's displacement in cubic inches along with number of cylinders. Keep in mind that many customers will refer to cubic inches rather than liters. The column also tells whether the engine is diesel. Also, the engine ordering codes are here. Next, we've got the columns that show the transmissions offered with the specific engines. You can see that under the 4-speed column and the automatic transmission column, there are different ordering codes. That's because one number represents a transmission with the overdrive option and the other doesn't. Under the 4-speed column, MM4 refers to the 4-speed manual transmission with deep low gear, and MM7 means the overdrive option. In the automatic transmission column, MX1 refers to the 3-speed automatic, and specifying MXO gets you the 4-speed automatic with overdrive. After transmissions, you'll see the section that offers the rear axle ratios. As you look through these charts, you'll see asterisks and other symbols. These explain why the ordering code for one particular ratio is different from one application to another. No big deal. Just look at the bottom of the page and you'll see whether you're ordering the right one. Finally, the last column is labeled GVWR. That shows you which power team combinations are available for each gross vehicle weight rating. So actually, you've got a valuable resource on this page that helps you make sure you're putting the right package together. We'll show you how all this works in Module 3. Well, it's time to answer some questions on power team ordering. This is the section where you can show your prospects the comparative horsepower and torque ratings between the various engines. Once again, you can see there's a chart for 49 states and one for California. Also, some engines will show up twice, but the second engine choice will have double asterisks. You've got to pay attention to these because they're heavy-duty emission engines for trucks of 8,500 pounds GVWR and higher. They have different ordering codes as well as torque and horsepower ratings. Just watch the asterisks. They'll help you avoid quoting the engine with the wrong horsepower and torque rating. This section is the GVWR selector. It shows various GVW ratings for each model in the column on the left. It also shows the maximum allowable weight for each axle, known as the GAWR, or gross axle weight rating. GAWR is determined by the lowest rated capacity of 3 components: the axles, springs, and tires. Next on the chart is the minimum equipment required for the GVW rating. It includes tire capacity, which we'll detail in a moment, and required chassis equipment that must be ordered. Sending an order through without the proper equipment will result in a truck that won't be run through the ordering system. So make sure you check that last column. There's a GVWR selector for each series. Check here to be sure you've got the right one. Now let's go back to tire capacity. These figures represent the amount of weight you can safely load on each tire. For example, for a 10 series truck of 6,100 pounds GVWR, the tire capacity is 1,843 pounds per tire. When you look at this front and rear tire availability chart and go down the capacity column, you find that the minimum equipment requirement is met by no tire smaller than the P235/75R15. So you'd make sure that if the prospect wants the 6,100 pound rating, you order at least these tires. You'd also want to note that front and rear tires have slightly different ordering codes. And this final column has a third code for spares. Also, remember that the tire capacities are listed per tire. Don't get the feeling this is all very complicated. All the information is there where you need it. A little bit of practice will make this very easy for you. And of course, one good way to get that practice is to answer a few questions before we go to the next page. Well, this is where we start wrapping up the package. These pages outline the prices for the various trucks, and as you'll notice, the top lines of the page tell you the GVW range for 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive models. The first column tells you the models and series along with the cargo box type and length. The second column gives you the model number, and you'll find the body code in the third column. The fourth column shows the wheelbase. After that comes the factory destination and handling, or D&H, list price, and manufacturer's suggested retail price, or MSRP. If you've sold cars at all, you know how this part works. Now turn the page. In this section, Options, you'll see trims, paints, power team components, tires, and their prices. Next, other options are alphabetized and bear the option numbers for ordering. In fact, it reads just like you'd read the same section in the passenger car ordering book. Following the option prices is a series of pages that are lettered rather than numbered. On these pages, you'll find important information you'll need when working with a customer. For instance, you'll find information on the content of the different trim levels. You do need to know what is contained in packages like Scottsdale or Silverado. If you don't, you might end up ordering an option twice or assuming something is included in a package and not ordering it at all. Other information includes standard cab features, important interior and exterior dimensions, what's included in the gauge packages, exterior and interior color combinations, plus two-tone paint combinations, and much, much more. Well, we covered the main section on product information in the Chevy Truck Facts Book. Take some time and browse through it. You'll be surprised how interesting and helpful the information can be. But for now, watch the next module where we show you some of the information that's in the other tab sections. Then, watch the last module where we put all this information together by speccing out an actual truck and give you the opportunity to do the same. We touched briefly on the general features and specifications sections before. This is your opportunity to learn more about the information in each of the sections, information that will help you increase your truck sales. For instance, these white tabbed sections with red letters contain color and trim with paint chips and seat trim photos. There's an options section that lists every Chevy truck option available and what models they're available on. This is displayed on an easy-to-read matrix. They're listed alphabetically by RPO number. Next, there are vehicle and option weights, which will help you figure out available payload capacities. Finally, competitive comparisons, where you can put your competitive briefing sheets and comparison inserts. Behind the gray tabs, you'll find technical specifications and information. Now, this is information you'll seldom need, but it's important to know where it is in case your prospect asks a technical question. For instance, there's a section on axles and suspensions that includes transfer case information, turning diameters, steering specifications, front and rear suspension components, and more. There's a section on brakes, on electrical components, including batteries, starters, and so forth, on engines and cooling that details specs on all light-duty engines and their fuel systems, plus horsepower and torque curves, on frames and their selling features, on transmissions and driveline components, including an in-depth explanation of overdrive and its selling benefits, and on wheels and tires that explains tire designations and differences between various tire types, such as P-metric, LT-metric, and so forth. In this last white tabbed section, you'll find a lot of useful information. In truck selection considerations, there's a glossary of truck terms, plus power team selection considerations, an explanation of weight distribution, and an alphabetical description of the more popular options. Under RV and trailering, you'll find recommendations for outfitting pickups with campers. And here's where you put your trailering guide, an important reference for speccing out trucks for trailer towing with the proper hitches, engines, and other components. There's also Union City body information, government regulations, and the tables and data section that lists various cargoes and their approximate weights. You would do well to familiarize yourself with the content of these sections. They contain a lot of information that will be helpful when speccing out a truck, as well as making recommendations to prospects and helping them to solve their truck selection problems. Well, we've gone over a lot of information about the facts book. Now, let's see how it all fits together as we spec out a sample truck. First, though, let's look again at the truck knowledge pyramid. Remember, the pyramid's base is qualifying. So let's assume we've qualified the customer with the use of the prospect profile worksheet from your workbook. Notice that this one has been filled out by a salesperson who has conferred with a prospect. By simply going down the sheet, he's determined many of the truck buyer's needs. You'll notice, for instance, that the prospect wants a full-size pickup, but doesn't require a four-wheel drive model. Nor does he need a bonus or a crew cab. You can also see the prospect doesn't intend to install a camper or cap on the bed, nor does he expect to trailer heavy loads. But occasionally he takes a couple of work partners along on jobs. He's also specified that he wants a gasoline engine, and he does a lot of highway driving. Now look at his cargo. We can see that he hauls about 12 cubic feet of fine, dry sand for a local landscaping company pretty much every day. So let's start by finding out how much his cargo weighs. That'll help us determine how much truck you'll need. Remember, we find cargo weights in the Tables and Data tab section of the facts book. Under Building Supplies, we see the amount of sand he's talking about will weigh around 1,320 pounds. So let's look at putting this buyer into a C10 pickup to handle that load. Now, we still want to make sure of two things. Will the truck's GVWR accept the cargo weight, and are the truck's gross axle weight ratings enough to support the weight when distributed over both axles? In other words, we need to figure out if this is enough truck for both front and rear axles as well as total weight. Well, after discussing various alternatives with the prospect, you've arrived at certain decisions. The prospect wants the long wheelbase, C10903, with the E63 fleet side body. So let's figure out the gross vehicle weight rating he'll need and the gross axle weight ratings that will be necessary for the load. Remember, this page in your CK pickup section breaks out curb weight and model weight. Find C10903, follow that line across, and locate the model weight figures for front, rear, and total. Remember, this model weight, 4,045 pounds, is the weight of the truck and 3 occupants. Let's add the cargo weight to these figures. On the same page, you'll remember our handy weight distribution chart. The second line highlights weight distribution for a C10 long wheelbase full-size pickup. We see it places 4% of the cargo weight on the front axle and 96% on the rear axle. So, by multiplying the cargo weight by 4% and 96%, we get our cargo weights front and rear. Add these figures to the model weights front and rear. This gives you the model weight plus the weight of the cargo for front, rear, and the total truck. Now, we've got a pretty good idea how much GVWR we're going to need. So, flip to the GVWR selector page for a C10 pickup. Check the ratings in the first column. We know our total weight so far is more than 5,300 pounds, so we can eliminate the 4,900 and the 5,200 pound ratings from consideration. We're still within the 5,600 pound rating, but we've got some options to add yet. So to be on the safe side, let's choose the 6,100 pound GVWR. We can always go back to the 5,600 pound rating if this proves to be too much truck. Now let's figure in option weights. Well, what options are there? In the prospect profile worksheet, you and the prospect determined he wants a rear step bumper, a V8 engine, and an automatic transmission. Looking at the Power Team selector page, we see that the only available V8 for the C10 is the 5.0 liter. And since he does a lot of highway driving, he's probably better off with the 4-speed automatic overdrive transmission. By the way, check and be sure you can get the combination with the GVWR you've selected. And here we can. There's also a choice of 3 rear axle ratios. Since our load is pretty heavy, recommend the higher 3.42 ratio. Now back to our weights. We also need to add the weights of the required equipment for the 6,100 pound GVWR, the G51 extra capacity rear springs, and the J55 heavy-duty power brakes. Finally, the tires must be considered. Look down the front and rear tire availability chart. You'll see you must order at least the P235 75 R15 steel-belted radials because they satisfy the minimum tire capacity required by the GVWR chart. C10 pickups always include a spare tire, so be sure to figure that weight in. So, by going to the white tabbed section that lists vehicle and option weights, we determine how many pounds each adds to the truck, and add those numbers to our current model and cargo weight totals. You'll notice that an option will sometimes cause a negative weight effect on a front or rear axle, depending on where it's placed. For instance, the engine in our example adds 124 pounds to the front of the truck, but takes away 8 pounds from the rear. Because some of its weight is forward of the front axle, that axle acts like a fulcrum and actually tilts the truck forward just a little bit. So when you see a negative weight under the front or rear column, take the difference between the two weights, 124 and minus 8, and you get 116 pounds, the true weight of that option. Add up all the options the prospect wants and the GVWR requires. They total 154 pounds in the front, 231 in the rear, and 385 total. When you add the option weight totals to the cargo and model weight, you get the gross axle weight for the front and rear axles and the total gross vehicle weight. You can see we made the right choice by going to the 6,100-pound GVWR. Our 5,750 exceeds that 5,600-pound rating. Remember, you cannot exceed any of the three numbers. You must be within the total allowed rating for the front and rear GAWRs as well as the total GVWR. Note that the GAWRs and the GVWR are separate and different ratings. You don't add the axle ratings together to obtain a total figure. Each axle is rated by itself to determine the weight it can support. Subtract the front and rear model and payload weights from the front and rear GAWR, and you'll get the reserve payload figure for each axle. In this case, 709 pounds up front, 477 pounds in the rear, but only a total GVWR reserve of 350 pounds. Note that the reserve weights allotted to both front and rear axles are greater than the GVWR reserve. This means you can't put any more than 350 pounds extra on this truck. The lowest rating is the reserve rating for the total truck. Also, be sure the combined model and payload weights to GVWR selector. Or not, we've just built a truck using the information from this video disc.